8 News at 6 starts now.
They came in with weapons. They came in with sticks. They had one goal.
Violence erupts in Virginia. 3 people killed, dozens injured.
Demonstrators carrying Confederate flags, swastikas, and KKK signs, clashing with counter-protestors in Charlottesville.
We have no tolerance for hate and violence.
The unrest now spreading to Richmond.
Take down the monument!
I will protect everyone against that racism.
Yes!
That prejudice.
Yes!
Thanks for joining us tonight. Racially charged violence that began Saturday in Charlottesville is simmering tonight where you live.
We have complete coverage tonight, and we begin where it all started. On Friday night, hundreds carried torches and marched on UVA's campus. They chanted things like "White Lives Matter" and "You will not replace us." On Saturday, police declared their protest as an unlawful assembly after clashes with counter-protestors. As the crowd was dispersed, a car plowed into a crowd of people on the city's downtown mall, killing a woman. 19 people were treated for injuries.
And around 5 p.m., a Virginia State helicopter monitoring the situation crashed here outside Charlottesville. Smoke from the wreckage there. 2 state troopers died, Lieutenant H.J. Cullen and Pilot Trooper Burke Bates. The cause of that crash is still under investigation. The unrest spread to Richmond just after 10 p.m. last night. Groups who oppose Confederate monuments marched through the Fan to the Lee and Stewart Circle monuments, calling for them to be removed. 8 News reporter Tracy Smith saw one man hit by a bat. Chief Alfred Durham says officers made 1 arrest.
Meanwhile, a judge has denied bond for the Ohio man accused of plowing his car into a crowd during the Charlottesville rally. James Fields faces second-degree murder and other charges. Police say he drove into a crowd, killing Heather Heimer and hurting 19 others. One of Fields' former teachers says he had, quote, deeply held radical convictions on race.
President Trump is denouncing neo-Nazis and white supremacists tonight. His comments today more direct than ones he made over the weekend. Democrats and Republicans have been pressuring Trump to condemn the white nationalist groups by name.
Those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans.
Authorities are now poring over video taken at Saturday's rally to see if more arrests could have been made and if anything could have been handled differently. Authorities tried to cancel the planned rally, but a judge denied their request. Instead, groups clashed with one another, well-armed and outnumbering police. But critics say the 2 sides never should have met in the first place. Police experts say interlocking fences, large vehicles, and officers should have been used to create a barrier.
Well, you want to keep them separated because of that reason, and the law allows you to keep them separated. It actually allows you to designate areas for counter-protest and areas for protest.
Experts say intelligence should be gathered in the future to pinpoint potential trouble. The governor of Virginia defended his police force, saying he's proud of them and that no shots were fired.
Here in Richmond, authorities are trying to avoid a similar situation. A request for a permit has been filed for a rally in September at the Robert E. Lee statue.
But after what happened in Charlottesville, some have called for the state now to deny the permit. Our 8 News reporter Tracy Smith is live on Monument Avenue tonight with the details. Tracy?
Amy, Richmond City Councilwoman Kim Gray says she believes that no permits for either side should be issued, especially after last night's protests here in Richmond. So I spoke to our legal analyst about what cities and governments can do, especially since the freedom of speech is protected in the Constitution.
What neither of those organizations can do is regulate the content of the speech that's being given.
Legal analyst Russ Stone says there's a fine line in what cities can do, and it all comes down to public safety.
If you had a situation where the exact same group that was involved in Charlottesville is coming to Richmond, things that that group has done in the past are valid considerations that a city could use in deciding whether or not to grant a permit.
Stone says violent words are not enough to cause concern because hate speech is also protected.
As long as it's not based on the content of the speech. Let's say another group wanted to come in and say the same things that this Unite the Right rally wanted to say, but they call themselves something different. Maybe it's even a different group of people.
He also says even if protesters ignore a denied permit, cities can only regulate based on safety concerns. And as he mentioned, Stone says if it were the same groups that were in Charlottesville this weekend, then that could be used as precedent. But that's not the case for September. Live in Richmond, I'm Tracy Smith, 8 News.
Groups are gathering here in Richmond and across the country to denounce the hate and violence we've seen. In Austin, Texas, folks sang and prayed together at this peace vigil. In Portland, Oregon, people honored the victims who stood up to groups like the KKK and neo-Nazis. Meanwhile, a memorial on the streets of Charlottesville is growing with flowers and messages of peace and pictures of Heather Heyer, who lost her life during Saturday's rally.
The 2 troopers who were killed in the helicopter crash were both from our area, we've learned. Lieutenant Jay Cullen and Trooper Pilot Burke Bates were keeping an eye on the protests. 8 News reporter Parker Slaybaugh spoke with friends who were mourning the loss.
I get these emotional waves come over me. It's pretty tough, but so it'll get better with time.
Tears of loss. Lieutenant Jay Cullen was a longtime friend for Henry Loving. And more than just a longtime friend, Lieutenant Cullen was also his longtime mountain bike riding partner.
It was a huge passion for Jay. Yes, we would go to the mountains, and every year we go to the mountains and either race or ride our bikes, and just he enjoyed that. He was a man that could suffer with the best of them, but enjoy it.
Lieutenant Cullen was born in New York, and prior to joining the Virginia State Police, was a flight instructor in Front Royal and Winchester, Virginia.
He loved his job, and we talked often about the flying aspect of it and so forth, so he was very passionate about it.
Cullen was flying alongside Trooper Pilot Burke Bates of Quinton, who also died in the crash. Cullen's passion, helping others.
If you knew Jay, he's a giver.
And according to anyone who knew him, maybe Lieutenant Cullen's biggest passion in life, his family.
He was always talking about his sons, and he was really proud of both of them. He talked about the challenges and successes of fatherhood.
Lieutenant Cullen leaves behind his wife and 2 sons, ages 17 and 15.
That was Parker Slaybaugh reporting. Parker also spoke to friends of Trooper Pilot Burke Bates. He'll have a full report on that coming up tonight on 8 News at 11.
And once again, here is what we know about this weekend's violence in Charlottesville and Richmond. A judge denied bond for James Fields. That's the man accused of driving his car into a crowd and killing Heather Heyer. Authorities also linked the deaths of 2 state troopers killed in a helicopter crash to the violence. 35 people were injured there.
Today, President Trump denounced the violence, explicitly naming hate groups such as the KKK and neo-Nazis. Here in Richmond, a rally is planned next month, or we should say one rally is applying for a permit. Counter-protestors say they'll be there as well. Richmond Mayor LeVar Stoney says violence will not be tolerated. 8 News has continuing coverage on this violence in Virginia. Follow us on social media. We'll also have the latest for you here on air and at WRIC.com.
In the weather where you live, we could be seeing a little bit of rain across central Virginia.
Cloud cover is increasing. Let's go to 8 News Chief Meteorologist John Bernier.
All right, here's what's going on for us. We've had a lot of clouds brew up this afternoon. A few areas of rain. A lot of it light rain skedaddled through northern Virginia. Some showers down to the south of us. Got some new showers beginning to brew up, as you can see, south of Farmville at this time. And then, of course, very heavy rainfall just below the border into North Carolina. Boy, they have been pummeled with heavy rain all day long. As we look at the high-resolution models for this evening, we see some showers kind of developing down to the south of us. As they try to come to the north, they kind of fade. We'll have the risk of scattered to isolated storms through about 9:30 p.m. And then we might see a little better band of rain developing as we head light rain into the overnight hours, especially off to the west of us. Stage those being set for showers to become likely for your Tuesday. We'll tell you more about that in the forecast coming up in a moment. Now, but remember, it's storm season here. It's hurricane season. We have Tropical Storm Gert out there. You need to keep track of all of it when we're not on the air. You can do that with the free 8 News app. It's free for any of your mobile devices.
News where you live in Richmond. Take a look at this trash littering the streets in the Fan and in the Museum District. It is that time of year again. High tenant turnover. Students and residents are moving out and they are leaving furniture behind, mattresses, other garbage in city alleys. The Department of Public Works is left to clean it all up, but you can help them too. Several local groups offer sidewalk pickup for your donated furniture. Head to our website for the full list.
Happening today, former Henrico Supervisor Dick Glover is going to be honored by the Glen Allen Youth Athletic Association. He'll be inducted into the Babe Ruth Southeast Regional Hall of Fame. The induction presentation starts at 6:30 p.m. at RF&P Park. Glover had a vital role in the development of that park, which hosts a variety of sporting events.
Coming up on 8 News at 6, how police officers are breathing deeper just to make their jobs a little bit easier. That News Where You Live is coming up. You are watching 8 News at 6. We have plenty of news where you live.
Stay with us. John, Amy, and I have much more in just a moment. News where you live in Petersburg tonight. The city's buying new emergency vehicles for the police and fire departments. It's using money collected from selling bonds. $28 million in general obligation and refunding bonds were offered. Some of that money will also be going to Petersburg City schools.
Deep breath in. Exhale, go deeper.
Officers where you live are doing yoga this summer, and it's all to relieve stress. Humble Haven Yoga is offering free classes for law enforcement. Instructors are hoping it will help first responders relax.
Trauma that we go through emotionally, physically, it will affect our support structures, it affects us, it affects our careers. Sometimes it creates long-term damage that I would love to see addressed.
The classes are free all summer for Richmond police officers. Many of them plan to continue even after the summer sessions have ended.
Ever wonder what it's like to be a law enforcement officer? The Prince George County Police Department is offering a community police academy. The deadline to apply is August 28th. You'll learn what happens to suspects after they're arrested. Also, explore the life of a crime scene investigator and much, much more. That 10-week program is free, but you do have to be at least 18 years old and live in Prince George County. You can register at WRIC.com under links mentioned.
We are just a week away now from the total solar eclipse on August 21st. More than 200 volunteers are trained to capture this moment in history. Those volunteers will use telescopes and tripods to observe the sun at 68 locations at the exact same time, the exact same way. All of the images will be combined for a movie project called Citizen Kate. The project will help scientists study the sun. John?
Well, here across central Virginia, we made it up into the mid-80s today at 84 degrees, starting off at 67, just a little bit below where we should be at this time of the year. Still a little dry on rainfall, but a little bit's on the way from us. And then some heat to talk about, too. All the details are coming up next.
We return now to another look at racially charged violence here in Virginia.
8 News reporter Mark Tenya is live in Charlottesville with one woman's unique perspective on the violence. Mark?
Amy Wong, we spoke to a number of Charlottesville residents who were very upset about what happened this weekend, but perhaps no one was more upset than one woman we spoke with who says her family has been dealing with racial injustices here in Charlottesville for generations. It's the statue that sits at the center of the controversy that led to this weekend's rally and deadly violence. In front of Emancipation Park, formerly known as Lee Park, we meet Joan Burton, who is visibly upset as she watches the statue.
Robert E. Lee is the symbol of the enslavement of my family.
Burton says not only has she lived here her entire life, but her family has been here for generations. Burton, a descendant of slaves owned by Thomas Jefferson, saying her family has dealt with racial injustices more than 150 years.
When I was a child, this was the white park. It was for whites only, as was most of Charlottesville.
To prove it, she takes us across the street to Charlottesville's Historical Society. There she shows us records of the lineage of some of the slave families owned by Jefferson, including hers.
Gil was the father of Edward Gillette, who was my fourth great-grandfather.
For Burton, this weekend's rally doesn't represent the work Charlottesville has done to make up for its past.
It symbolizes what we were, and it also symbolizes how far we've come.
She says in this city, the statue of Robert E. Lee doesn't hold the same meaning it does for those fighting to keep it.
It's sad to see this town splashed all over the world with the ugliness that happened here Saturday.
Now, we also asked Burton if she'd like to see this statue removed. She says she would rather see this statue put in context, as has been proposed in Richmond, than removed. Live in Charlottesville, Mark Tenya, 8 News.
Thank you, Mark. 8 News will bring you continued coverage on this violence here in Virginia. Follow us on social media. We'll also have the latest for you here on air and at WRIC.com. Turning now to the weather where you live, it's closer and closer to our total solar eclipse.
Yeah, everybody's so excited about it. But, John, first we have a chance of rain tonight that we have to talk about.
Yes, we do. We've got clouds that have moved in over us. It's going to be unsettled, and that's going to be hot for a couple of days outside. Right now, we're in the upper 70s to the lower 80s. Gordonsville, Charlottesville, Louisa, all 77 degrees. Meanwhile, as you head down the south side, we are in the lower 80s right now. 81, 82, pretty much the popular number, 84 degrees over in Williamsburg is your warm spot. Here is the radar. Again, a little cooler to the north of us because they had some light rain skedaddle off to the north and move through. Got a few new showers now starting to form down here towards Farmville, just to the southeast of Farmville at this time, kind of lying right along US 360, as you can see. And one heavier one here, very southern end of Prince Edward County as we speak right now. Other heavy storms down to the south through the Carolinas. These have been persistent throughout the day, dropping hefty amounts of rainfall for them. Some of this moisture sliding to the north, and another disturbance coming in along that stalled front from the west will increase the risk of showers over us for the next 24 hours or so. Here's all that moisture continuing to work its way towards us, while right there is tropical storm, almost a hurricane, Gert. Could see it becoming a hurricane potentially as early as 11 o'clock tonight, but it's going to swing away from the coastline, and other than some high surf and rip currents, not cause any problems. All right, here's what happens this evening. Widely scattered showers tonight. We do see some indications that maybe 10 p.m. to midnight we'll see another chance of showers coming by, then some showers to the west of us overnight. Early tomorrow morning, you wake up with clouds at 7 a.m. In the middle of the day, we start to form the showers and thunderstorms that will come through the area through the afternoon, through 4 p.m., through about 8:30 or so, and then after that they move out of the way. We're going to head into Wednesday. Skies are going to turn partly cloudy. Wednesday, Thursday, upper 80s to the lower 90s, and yes, it's going to be a little sticky out there also. So we're going to be mostly cloudy tonight. Showers mainly early down to 73 degrees. A good chance of showers and thunderstorms tomorrow, especially noon through 5 p.m. at 85. Then 2 hot days in the lower 90s. Humidity back enough to where we could have showers and thunderstorms Friday and Saturday. But there's the good news. Mostly sunny skies headed your way for the eclipse next Monday. Sports will be headed your way right after this.
8 Sports is sponsored by the Haley Automotive Group.
Welcome back. It's time for the Haley 8 Sports Report. The Virginia Tech Hokies were back on the field today, but first, a major announcement. Today, head coach Justin Fuente named his starting quarterback, redshirt freshman Josh Jackson. 8 Sports reporter Chip Briere is in Blacksburg with reaction.
It's time for us to go ahead and name Josh as a starting quarterback.
20 days remain before the Hokie season opener against 20th ranked West Virginia at FedEx Field. Today, Josh Jackson came out on top of the quarterback race over A.J. Bush and Hendon Hooker.
I've just been pleased with his consistency, his demeanor, his ability to process information, and some of the things that we gave him to work on through the summer, I think he's made improvements on.
The decision comes earlier than it did a year ago when Fuente picked Gerard Evans, who threw for 26 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions in 2016. The coaching staff hopes Jackson can have a similar output in 2017.
We think he's the guy. We just feel like this is the right time.
He executed, he took care of the ball. Ultimately, being able to play well and give our team a chance to win is what is kind of at the top of the list for us.
Jackson found out at 12:30 p.m., enough time to call his dad and share the news. He says the timing works in his and the Hokies' favor, with unproven players around him to build that important chemistry.
Now we'll really all be able to be on the same page, like you said. I'll be able to get all the rest with those guys and get just get better and better with them, and I will be able to just focus in on getting better and not really worrying about who's going to be in or anything like that.
With the biggest question answered under center, Justin Fuente's attention now turns to the wide receivers. Only Cam Phillips and C.J. Carroll return with game experience. Now knowing who will be throwing the ball will help both old and new get acquainted faster with the Black Diamond Trophy and Coastal Division defense on the line. In Blacksburg, Chip Riere, 8 Sports.
Also in Blacksburg, former Virginia Tech head coach Frank Beamer, he said today he's really excited about the renewal of the Hokies' rivalry with West Virginia.
I felt like their fans got a little rough at times. They probably felt like our fans got a little rough at times. But, you know, it was all because our fans support the team so strongly. So I look forward to being there and seeing the game and seeing how it goes.
That's it for sports. I'm Mitch Carr. We'll be right back.
It's been a busy 8 News at 6.
And we're looking forward to bringing you more tonight on 8 News at 11. For now, though,
have a great evening.
We'll be back then.